Well, that's my sign. Good morning and welcome to Transcending Reality, a program of We Are the Tree of Life, and also, I think, a way of living that Jackie has instilled in all of us, transcending reality to present this entire series to you. Today, Jacqueline Gamache and Guri Stark lead a virtual exhibit on the artistic works of Helga Weissova and Samuel Bach. The presentation will include Notre Combat, a collective workshop project by Linda Elia with the message of universal peace. We Are the Tree of Life was brought to life by Jackie Gamache as a way to present the arts and culture created during the Holocaust so that it could be used as an educational tool and lesson of the past to be carried and revised to the present. My name is Ryan Isaac. I'm the Director of Cultural Arts at the San Diego Center for Jewish Culture at the Lawrence Family JCC Jacobs Family Campus. We have many people I'd like to thank before we get on with today's program. I want to start by thanking our friends and partners at the Leachtag Foundation, the Jewish Federation of San Diego County, the USC Shoah Foundation Institute, Holocaust Center of Pittsburgh, Art of Elan, Timeline Studios, and ADL San Diego. Special thanks also to artist and activist Lynn Kibo and producer Clint Burkett. Thank you for joining us. I am now going to turn things over to Lauren Bairnsfather, Executive Director of the Holocaust Center of Pittsburgh. Lauren, thanks for joining us again.
Thank you, Ryan. So as you all heard, I am Lauren Bairnsfather. I'm the Executive Director of the Holocaust Center of Pittsburgh, where we connect the horrors of the Holocaust and anti-Semitism with injustices of today. And we do that through educational programs like the one that you're attending today. And currently the Holocaust Center of Pittsburgh is marking its 40th anniversary year and planning for 40 years from now with a lot of enthusiasm. So it seems like a long time ago now, I was introduced to Jackie Gamache by a mutual friend who's in Charlotte, North Carolina. So already you're seeing that this project is spanning distances across the country. And Jackie and I had a real meeting of the minds about the power of art. Okay, so We Are the Tree of Life grows from Jackie's granddaughter's response to the events of October 27th of 2018. And in Pittsburgh, we don't need to elaborate when we say October 27th. We're talking about the attack on the Tree of Life building here in the heart of Squirrel Hill, Pittsburgh's Jewish community. Pittsburgh still has a community where many, many Jews of Pittsburgh live. Not so many cities still have that neighborhood. And it's a beloved neighborhood by Jews and non-Jews. And that day really changed all of us in this city. It changed us so deeply. It changed the work of the Holocaust Center of Pittsburgh. And one thing that we did immediately was we invested even more in programming around art and the arts. So why do we do that? Why do we talk about arts when we talk about the Holocaust? Why is art such an important part of our teaching about the Holocaust? For one, and for the things you're going to hear about today, to me, it's always the triumph of the human spirit, that creativity persists through trauma, through brutality. And the other reason that we're really committed to teaching with art is that art provokes an instant emotional connection, something that is very hard to achieve through other methods, through other pedagogical approaches. If you put someone in a room with visual art, with music, with dance, you're going to evoke emotion in a way that is very hard to accomplish. I'm a historian by training. I know when I'm standing up here talking to you, it won't have that same effect, right? Art does something different. Indeed, art transcends. So I'm going to pass the microphone, but first I want to thank you, Jackie Gamache, for bringing me into your world, for bringing the world to care about what happened at the Tree of Life, for saying that we are the Tree of Life. And I'll thank also the team at the Lawrence Family JCC in San Diego. I wish I were with you in person, but someday perhaps. Thank you all for coming to attend this program today. Jackie.
Thank you, Lauren. It's yes, I think you said it perfectly. I wouldn't be able to do so in the same way. But I want to say that not only I see you as a partner and a colleague, I see you as a friend and a very, very open lady, accepting the world as it is, but trying to combat and to make it a struggle for a better world. Thank you so much, Lauren. Guri?
Okay, good morning, everybody. Let me first share my screen so we can get started. Okay, here we go. So good morning. My name is Guri Stark. I am in San Diego, so I should say good morning or good afternoon or good evening, wherever you are. Those of you that don't know me, and I see a lot of familiar faces here, but those of you that don't know me, I've been giving art lectures for now close to 20 years, many of them at the JCC too. And some of you may know me from that, especially from a specific art lecture that I give about the art of the Holocaust, where I emphasize that art is a way to survive, art is a way to protest, art is a way to document, and art is a way to remember. And that's what we are going to do today. We're going to highlight three types of art to you. One is an art that was created by Helga Weissova, a child that documented what she saw around her in a concentration camp. The other one is art by Samuel Bach, which did survive too. He was a child in the concentration camp, and most of his art was done after the Holocaust from memory and a way to remember. And the last one is art as a way to protest and combat, and we'll talk about that clearly, about art that was painted on top of a very infamous book, and we'll talk about that later. So let's dive right in, and we'll start from the ghetto of Theresienstadt, or Theresen as we call it. It's a concentration camp, it's a ghetto, and it was completely different than most other concentration camps in a way that it was created as a window to the world, a fake window to show the world how life is really so great inside the concentration camp. So the Nazis created the camp in a way to show that there is art, there is music, there is theater in a concentration camp for those visitors that came from the outside, to show them, what are you talking about? Life is so good there. And in that camp was a little girl called Helga Weissova, and she painted what she saw around her. And I want to share with you a few things that she painted as a girl, and think about it from a perspective, a point of view of a little girl. First, I'm going to tell you about her a little bit. She was born in 1929 in Prague. Her parents and her were moved to Theresienstadt when she was 12 years old. So at 12, she is now already in the ghetto. She was there for 3 years. And while there, she created a diary, a book in which she described her experiences and painted and drew her experiences. And she was a very talented girl. But at the age of 18, she changed her age. She lied about her age in order to survive Mengele. And she said, I'm old enough, I'm 18, so I can work. And that's the first time that she survived was based on that. But the second time that she survived was when she was moved through a death mark to a camp called Mauthausen. She had to walk with many other people for 16 days there. And most people don't survive that terrible march, but she did survive. And she was there until the end of the war, when the camp was liberated. So she is a survivor, and she is still alive today. She is in her 92nd year. And funny enough, or interesting enough, she lives in the same house where she grew up as a child. And between the war and then, she received many awards, honorary doctorates and medals of merit for her way to document what she saw around her in her camp. A very interesting girl. This is the first drawing that she did in the camp. And what you see in this drawing is a very childish approach to what's going on around her. And she smuggled this drawing to her father, which was in a different building in the concentration camp. And he wrote back to her a note that says, draw what you see. And from that moment, the Draw What You See became a theme for her, and it became a theme for her book that came out later, and also for the shows that she had, the exhibitions that she had. Draw what you see around her with her naive, childish eye. Here's a painting that is titled The Arrival in Theresienstadt. So you see here, a lot of Jews are arriving, all ages, young and old. They have a limit on what they can carry, so they carry suitcases up to 50 kilograms with them, and they had no idea what they're going to. They believe that they're going into a resort or a spa at that point. It was early. And that's how she painted them, that's how they looked to her. Yeah, all marked with the yellow badge. Departure of a transit. So you see this painting or drawing is divided to two parts. On the left are the people that are being sent to the trains, to the concentration camps, to the crematoriums. On the right are the families that they were separated from. And in the middle are the police people or the Gestapo people, separated between the families that stay and the families that go to the crematoriums. Like I said earlier, there are actually educational programs in the camp. And this is Walter Freud, the manager of the Jewish community in the camp, celebrating Hanukkah. You can see the Chanukiah, the menorah in there, and you can see everybody celebrating together with him. An amazing drawing done with a pen by Helga Weissova. Like we said, this was supposed to be a window to the world, and the commissions that would arrive into the camp to see that everything is fine were the Red Cross Commission. And of course, before they came, everything was cleaned and arranged like a stage. Everything is beautiful, everything is nice, everything is clean, life is good. And that's how she is documenting the cleanup that they're doing before the commission arrives. And another thing they did before the commission arrived is actually they cleaned up the dormitoriums, the bunks, the areas where they lived that was usually very, very crowded. They had 3 levels of bunks, very, very crowded. So before the commission arrived, they cut down the 3rd level of bunks to make it look less crowded. Here she is documenting how they cut down the 3rd bank of those beds. Opera. So despite the inhumane conditions, they were able to have library evenings and concerts and performances. And here we have an opera in the concentration camp. Everybody had to work in the camp, even the blind. Here she's documenting the blind people. You see somebody with dark glasses there, but they do look pretty miserable as we watch them try to work while being blind. And they were able to arrange for school and for learning, even though it was forbidden. Still, they were creative and were able to arrange for schools. You see the children themselves are carrying their chairs and their desks into a hiding place so they can learn. A very interesting drawing that she did for her friend Franca. They grew up together, they shared the same bunk. And this is a wishful thinking about what will happen. They are now 14 years old. So you see 3 sections in this drawing. The first section on the left, 1929, when she was born. So you see her as a baby. The middle section, 1943, she is now 14, celebrating her birthday in a bank in a concentration camp. And the right side section, 1957, is what will happen in 14 years, her wishful thinking about her becoming a mother, walking the streets of Prague with babies and children. And another birthday wish number 2. what she really wanted is to go back home to Prague. So you see here the road sign, one showing back to the camp and one showing to Prague, and she wants to go the Prague way. This is the last painting that she painted from her series. I called it Everything Can Be Sensed in the Children's Look. Okay, and with that, I'm gonna move it back to Jackie.
Thank you, Guri. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Can you see me, guys, or you don't see me? But that's fine if you don't see me, as long as I see the slide. Do I get some help here?
Yes, Jackie, we can see you. We see the slides.
Okay, because I was not seeing you, but that's fine. Okay, we are back to We Are the Tree of Life, and I am ready to announce our next approach. But I want to emphasize the fact that We Are the Tree of Life is we are the Tree of Life, and the we is made of each individual. And here I want to address a lot of attention and thank you to Lynn Cable, because Lynn initiated basically the visual aspect, the visual arts of We Are the Tree of Life, dealing with those 4 or 5 performing arts. And we were studying with Lynn and seeing how we were going to work with those art created in camps. And she came up with the expression of transcending reality. And the transcending reality is bringing us to what they have created, for me at least, and how we are adjusting it, understanding it as an individual and as a community. Next. Transcending reality, notre combat, my struggle. Here in a bizarre way, I introduce you on the left with all the paper cuts of the cover of the book, Notre Combat, and the darker image is the back cover of the book. What is the book about? Next. I'm sorry for the next, but I don't think we have a choice with Zoom. This is Linda Ilya. Linda Ilya is a young mother. She was born in Tunisia, and she grew up over there the same way I did. Decided to put a book called Notre Combat with some wording, the red part, as you can see, of Simone Weil. Who is Simone Weil? And my desire is to introduce you as I feel it, as Jackie, and as my different cultures in terms of being born in Tunisia also, and being able to understand Notre Combat within the French approach. Next. Simone Weil. Simone Weil, what happened is when Linda, and I'm doing that on purpose not to tell you what the book is all about yet, decided to create this artistic project. You know that we are going to talk about art. She approached la mémoire de la Shoah, the Shoah Memorial in France, which was run at that point by my best friend, Anne-Marie Revkolevsky, as the director, and who was working with Simone Weil. And the idea was transferred to Simone Weil, who is, as you can see on the left of the screen, a woman of the world and the government of France, who was the president of the European Parliament, and who is the one who developed the laws in terms of women's reproductive rights. That means at one point after Linda presents, Simone Weil gets up, hold her, almost teary, the eyes, and very emotional, and to say, we have to take her out. We have to get into another road of this horror. And we need to keep a book We need to keep to develop a book starting from that book. And the book, I'm sure you all guessed, is nothing else than Mein Kampf book. Next. Notre combat is the word of used by the French resistance during the Nazi occupation. And I think this is a very important point that I wanted to mention. Of course, a success with the publication of the book. Linda was interviewed by different media, and I wanted to keep together two questions which were very powerful for me. Did your family experience the Nazi occupations of France? Is asking the media reporter, and she answered, no, I am from Tunisia and Sephardic. Many more Ashkenazi Jews experienced it. In fact, there were many Ashkenazi Jews who were very upset that I was doing this project. Why you? They asked. This is our history. And that was very shocking to me. We need to be together, and we need to be together as Ashkenazi and Sephardi Jews. I started to work on that 53 years ago when I married an Ashkenazi boy. Question 2, did any Germans contribute to the project? Yes, about 30 did. I am taking the opportunity because I want you to enter the project of the new project of Linda. And I know I'm taking away, but it's the same concept from my project and what I am presenting to you, which is hors class, which is outside of the classroom. And what happened, she was working in the streets of Paris. She found a book and she tripped over this book. She opened it and it was a book from a teacher that she assumed had dropped it with beautiful child and drawings from kids. And she decided to create and to search for those books to create a mission about how can we learn outside of the regular class, of the regular classroom, and become really fighters of freedom, fighters of acceptance, and fighters for love. Next. I love what she did. And I'm sure you are all anxious to know, unless you do know already, but she found 600 pages of the book of Mein Kampf, and she wanted a work on of 600 pages to represent the death of the 6 million deportees. I choose to keep you in the waiting of what I want to present to you with this image of the book, where you have 10 people representing, as we know, the Minyan, the Jewish community at large, standing on a page of Mein Kampf and wearing a talit, which can elevate them towards God. This is my interpretation. Next. Mein Kampf. I let you get into those multiple covers and those multiple images of Hitler presenting his work. Next. And here we are. This is the book, and this is a painting, a presentation of Mein Kampf on the book itself. I'm sure you all know that his dream was to be an artist and finally an architect. He created a lot of artwork, but was not recognized as an acceptable artist. He failed to enter the Art Institute. He failed to enter some very famous gallery in Berlin, but I want to see a little bit what he has produced, and I don't know what will be your thinking. Thank you, Guri. Hello? Can you click on it? Can you hear me, guys, or am I losing you? Are you there?
Jackie. Yep,
We
we can
hear
hear
you
you.
fine, Jackie.
Okay, that means this is some of the drawings and the work of Hitler. I don't know. I'm not a judge, a good enough judge to say it was good, it was bad, but it was not successful. There is a story, and I don't know if it's a story or tale, saying that he took his work, went to an art gallery in Berlin, where he which was owned by a Jew, and the gentleman told him, "No, it's not what we want to represent," and he left, very, very upset. And then he started to walk on the street of Berlin and said, "I should be an architect." But of course, we know his design of the eagle that he's using, and finally became the Hitler that unfortunately we know. Next. That's fine. Thank you. Now, my Kampf was published, as you know, 1925, 2 volumes, 1927, and here is what's, oh, you don't have the video?
90 years ago, Hitler's Mein Kampf, or My Struggle, has been republished by Germany with mixed reactions. Many have argued that the republishing of the text is inflammatory and racist, but the biographers behind the release say it is a useful educational tool. Hitler wrote Mein Kampf in Landsberg prison in 1925, and 90 years later, copyright on the text, which was banned by the Allies at the end of World War II, has expired, opening the way for this critical edition with explanatory sections and over 3,500 critical annotations.
That's exactly what we are doing, deconstructing Hitler, the Hitler myth, and also the racism and the ideology underlying all these political arguments.
On Friday, the 2,000-page 2-volume work went on sale after about 3 years of labor by scholars at Munich's Institute for Contemporary History. Auschwitz survivor Ziggy Schipper is appalled that Mein Kampf is back in print.
I just feel bad about it, because I wouldn't like to see, the worst thing is not reading, but if I would walk by a bookshop or something and see that book, I'll feel bad. And might cause more racism or anti-Semitism.
But students at a Berlin school had mixed reactions to the reprint.
I think it should be republished. I think it's important that we learn from our mistakes that we made in the past. I don't think anybody would take Mein Kampf seriously anymore because it was written in a different time.
It should be not republished in Germany because we have such a big movement at the moment that is going to sympathize with the people that are against immigrants.
Well, I think it should definitely be discussed at school, but I think a public access to the book is not healthy.
Whatever your opinion, the publication is a big step for Germany, which still struggles with the legacy of the Nazi era and the Holocaust.
Next. Okay, it became, as you know, a very successful book. Okay, and it was 5.2 million copies sold in 11 languages. But what I think was absolutely very, very strong, that and a document of presenting his objective and presenting the horror that he was seeing into and written into this book. That every newlywed couple in the 1940s and every soldier fighting at the front received that book. That means, let's evaluate what does that mean. Next. With the publication of the new book, and where we have how many did they say? 25,000 annotation. What will be the impact of this new publication? But what Notre Combat did very beautifully, in Transcending Reality is that one page was given randomly in Paris by Linda Elia. And she asked any person that she was getting into contact with to draw something, to do something, and to have a reaction toward this page of Hitler, Mein Kampf. One that I think is very powerful is we have this man, which could be a man of the street, you know, cleaning up, washing out all those words. The next images I'm going to ask you, and I'm going to be quiet, I'm going to ask you to feel them, to sense them. And even in your imagination, to see what you personally, as the person who is joining us today, what would you do with this page of Mein Kampf if you had it into your hand? Next. 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 Yes. Next. Yes. Okay, this one I'm going to stop for 1 minute. It probably was designed in 1998 for the girls born in 1998. And I don't know how to interpret it. I look at it many, many times and I don't know. I do feel it and I don't feel it. That means I let you decide. Next. Okay, this one, I'm glad you don't understand French. It's a revolting one, and it's so revolting, but so real that I'm not going to share it. If you do want to share it at the end of the presentation, we'll go back to it. But you can see that at the center, it's somebody who looks like Hitler. Next. This is a very powerful one for me, which I see the Inferno. It says, it's done for today. Tomorrow, it will be another day. And it made me think at La Divina Commedia and Inferno, where according to the presentation of Botticelli, you can see that the people are in chain and they are wrapped into those, probably what are those metallic chain, not being able to move. We know that Hitler committed suicide, but I think I am sharing with you the way I feel about it. Next. Okay, this is the exhibition of all the pages which were in the book of Linda Elia, and that was in a San Francisco exhibit. And I think it's a very, very nice display. You feel almost like you are in a place of art, and at the same time, for me, in a place of like a cemetery or whatever. I don't know. Again, this is your way of watching it, your way of feeling it. Next. I was so excited by that in 2008, I transposed the event at the San Diego Jewish Book Fair when I was directing over there and working with my committee. And I bought a book of Mein Kampf. We presented a table with art supply, and we asked the people to take a page and to design. I don't know if you remember Naomi then, and I don't want to give her last name, but she wrote, "We are still here and you have not silenced us." Next. Next. This is still at the book fair. And it's from making the reading, making the voice of the reading silent, to a kid who has drawn the right page with the Magen David. Next. Next. As you can see, some people annotated the writing of the page, transferring them from the horror transmitted by the word of Hitler to an acceptance of the Jews and to the fighting of the Jews. Next. Next. And today, I know that tomorrow will shine again, golden, and bring our hearts back home. Next. Next. The power of the word. All those words presented on the Magen David are words extracted from the page of Mein Kampf. But look how a word can have two different impact, and how a sentence can have different. And here I am saying that because I want to express on a personal basis how much I do not like the word that we are using, the word of tolerance. I wish we educators and we institutions we change it to acceptance. I'm not here to tolerate you. I'm here to accept you. And of course, that again was designed by somebody on the Mein Kampf page for all the words written and presented at the San Diego Jewish Book Fair. Next. Harold Kushner was attending and was presenting at our book fair in 2008. He took the page of Mein Kampf, he went back, and he sent us back this prayer for the world. Gemilut Hasidim. And suffering is suffering. We know what was the suffering, and what is still probably the suffering. Not probably, what still is the suffering of Harold Kushner when he lost his own son. Next.
So we're moving back now to Samuel Bach. That was a very impactful and powerful section about how people react to the Book of Mein Kampf. Samuel Bach, he was a survivor of the Vilna ghetto, and the image that you see in the center is the ghetto of Vilna. And I want to make you listen. I hope some of you understand Yiddish. To me, it's almost mother language because my parents, which were Holocaust survivors, spoke that language initially. Samuel Bach. So Samuel Bach is still alive. He is today 87 years old and he lives in the United States. He was born in Poland in 1933. And he is today a pretty famous artist and painter and writer, and his art is amazing. I'll show you a few, but there is so much art that he created which really expresses his feelings about what he went through. When Vilna was occupied by the Nazis in 1941, his family, him and his family were transported into the Vilna ghetto. And you see the story on the next slide. I'll tell you his personal story, how he survived. But initially, he was 8 years old when he moved into the ghetto. And by the age of 9, he already had the first exhibition of his art inside the ghetto. So some of his art as a child was done in the ghetto. And his mother was able to escape on the way to the ghetto and find refuge in a church, actually, and he joined her later, and I'll show you how. By the end of the war, he survived that he realized that other than him and his mother, the entire family perished. This painting that you see here is titled Self-Portrait, but you see in it at least 2 different people. One of them is himself. He's sitting in the center of the painting inside a sack. And then there is the famous face of a child that you probably have seen this photograph that appears in many of Samuel Bach's paintings, and I'll explain him in a minute. But I want to tell you why Samuel Bach now is sitting inside the sack. So when they were transported into the camp, into the concentration camp, his mother on the way was able to escape. And she was found refuge. And his father, being very creative actually, put him in a sack. And after they arrived, and through the window of the building that they were in, he dropped him out to somebody, a helper of the family that came to pick him up, and he joined his mother, and together they found this refuge for the entire war. They were hiding in there. So what you see in here is actually his self-portrait. That sack saved his life. And if you notice what he's holding in his hand, he's holding a paintbrush in his right hand. That paintbrush is the only tool he had in order to survive where he was hiding. And that's how he survived, by painting it, by painting his imagination. The face that you'd see of that child is a very famous face that we all saw. And what's unique about him in Samuel Bach's paintings is that his hands are pierced, almost like a crucifixion. And in fact, Samuel Bach called it the Jewish Crucifixion. The child is being crucified here. And you see him 3 times, if you noticed, one in the center and 2 times on the left. One is like made out of wood, and then the image of his face appears again on the very left of the image of the painting. Here he is again, and he appears in many of Samuel Bach's paintings. It's called Identification, and again, you see the pierced hands, and this time I'm showing you a portion of the famous photograph that many of you have seen before, from which this face is taken. With this painting, you can see how fantastic Samuel Bach is as an artist and how he can express his feelings. The title is Ghetto. This painting has no horizon. The ghetto is going all the way into the ends of the canvas. What you see is slates, sheets of slates that are being opened and moved. And inside those slates, you see the ghetto. And if you notice, the opening inside the slates looks like Star of David. And inside, you see the ghetto, and you see our eyes are attracted to the dark side, to the darkness of the ghetto. So that's what we see, a way to explain the ghetto underground, covered, and the darkness of it. And even the yellow Star of David that you see on the left is pointing into the darkness inside the ghetto. Very, very strong painting expressing his feelings about the ghetto. This one is titled Destinies. It's a tree, and this whole evening is titled We Are the Tree of Life. And this tree is actually a tree of life, and I'll explain how. First of all, you see the tree is cut. The root is uprooted. The root is being put on something that looks like, I don't know, a box, and almost ready to be transported to another destiny, but we don't know to where. But the rest of the tree is still standing and is supported with crutches. And some of the crutches, or one of the crutches, is supported by a wall, which is a leftover of a building, obviously. The whole background is like in a desert. There is nothing growing there other than this tree. And look what happened to the leaves of the tree. There used to be leaves, but they turned into Stars of David. In fact, they turned into Stars of David that some of them look metallic and some of them look yellow, and we know why. But there is an optimistic side to this painting, which is why I call it still the Tree of Life. And if you notice, out of the root that is on the box, there is a new leaf that is coming out, and that's the future, the optimism that is still hidden inside this painting. And here's another tree, interesting. He painted a lot of trees. He called it unrooted. Of course, it's easy to understand why. These two trees are completely unrooted. They are up in the air. They are supported with crutches also. But there is something unique here. One of the trees is turned into a candle. If you noticed, you have to look at it a little bit to see the candle. And the candle is a memorial to all the people that were perished. And there is also an optimistic side here. Of course, those trees are uprooted, but there is new growing coming out of those trees. There is new growth coming out of those trees, and that's the optimistic side of Samuel Bach. Letters, a very, very strong painting. Of course, these are the tablets of law. We all know them, but they're crumbling, they're falling apart. All the letters are flying out of them. And why? Because, you know, the most important tenet, or one of the most important tenets of the tablets of law, thou shalt not murder, was violated. So the letters are flying out. They are no longer coherent. They cannot be put together anymore the same way. And he knew that those fires that killed all those people consumed more than just their bodies. They consumed a complete structure of belief that had to be restructured after the Holocaust. And another set of letters that are scrambled and falling apart, in a way similar to the previous one, but those of you that know how to read Hebrew will find something very interesting here. If you look at the center to the left, I'll point it out to you here if you see my cursor. There is a Yud and a Shin and a Resh and an Aleph and a Lamed, and it spells Israel. So Israel is crumbling, but it's still holding up, it's still there. There's also Shema. There is a Shin and a Mem and an Ayin. Shema Israel. And I'm sure if you continue to look, you may find more meanings in there. The letters of God are in this scrambling. An amazing painter that he is, he painted a lot of pairs. And you know, the art historians are trying to figure out why is he painting pairs. And they believe that there is an ancient tradition that believes that pairs are symbol of separation. In fact, the ancient Chinese tradition believes that lovers should not cut a pear and share it because it's a symbol of separation. So he linked here the cut pair to the separation that happened in the Holocaust. And in fact, that pair, although cut, is trying to get back together with the rope around it. So the pair of separation.
You know, it's very interesting because culture is culture. As you know, and most of you, I'm sure today in attendance, know of me, know of my stories, know of my life stories, you'll know of my immigration. And my father raised me with the idea, il faut toujours sauver une poire pour la soif, which is an Arabic saying. My father was fluent in Arabic. You must always save a pear for first. Effectively, there is a concept in the Chinese culture about the separation. Bach brings that together with the rope, as Guri eloquently said. And why Arab saying said, you have, and you almost have save a pear for first, because the pear is something to eat, right? You eat a pear, there is a substance in there, which is eatable, but at the same time, there is a lot of juice. That means when you are thirsty, when you are angry, have a pear and keep it together. I needed to share that with you. It might be outside of We Are the Tree of Life, but for me, it is inside We Are the Tree of Life. And why? Because if we, and I'm not doing any politics here, if we as Semites, of people of Arabic identity and of Jewish identity, we can get together, we can eat together the pear when we are thirsty and angry. I don't know if you accept that, but I wanted to share it. Next. Okay, this We Are the Tree of Life from generation to generation. I'm not going to insist too much because Lauren, who was introducing that, Lauren, the executive director of the Holocaust Center, has expressed how all that developed with work of my grandchildren and with understanding and me trying to teach my grandchildren the story of the Holocaust. Next. Family tree. The tree of life, the family tree. Edith Eger has been extremely dedicated to what we are doing, and I wanted to recognize her, and I wanted to show to her a family tree. And you can see that from time to time, you have different elements, the violin, or you have the scissors, the cut of the family, or you have Hitler totally at the bottom on the left side, and you have Moses on the left side. How together, how with the concept of hope, with the concept of choice to survive when you are a Holocaust survivor, when you receive the gift for the lesson of life, we can all of us try to work together for a better world. Next. Those are my kitties. Medor, Anya, Marco, Yvette, and they designed this art for the purpose of We Are the Tree of Life. And of course, it's their interpretation as 9-year-old and 10-year-old kids. Next. Now, beautifully, I'm sure that Uri would be honored to introduce the one on the left.
One of the left is Sivan, my granddaughter, which is also 9 years old, and she tried to capture the concept of tree of life with love and butterflies and so on.
And we presented, then we decided with Guri to present it in the same slide, showing the kids from Israel, the granddaughter from Israel, and the one on the right are trees from an artist. And I apologize, I don't remember if it's Derot or if it's Sha'an Anegev that he has developed and makes very successful in Israel as a piece of artwork and reflecting of Tree of Life. Next. This is something which has been created by a local artist that I own, which is absolutely beautiful. Betki Gooden, you might be familiar with her, and she drew it at the book fair in 2008. And I think it's such a strong symbol with pages again cut of Mein Kampf and pages of, it's not from a prayer book, that we know that we cannot do that, but pages in the language of Hebrew. Next. We are the Tree of Life. Next. I want to show you the participation of the institution, and I'm going to take a few words to talk after the slide about the future of We Are the Tree of Life and the development of We Are the Tree of Life. Next. This is a written transcription of what we have called and what we are calling the San Diego Community Initiative. But I want you to know that we have been a group of 4 people who work diligently in developing during the pandemic, where we couldn't see each other. Clint Burkett, director and producer of Times Studios, Lynn Cabo that I mentioned, and recently joined by Alan Markovitz, IMAX filmmaker and VFX producer. And this is the institution which have joined us, and a special thank you to the Lertag Foundation. That means I would like to close with a few comments, if you don't mind, and you can turn off the share screen. And what I want to say, I can see myself here. Let me introduce you to where we are. 1, I was started by saying, I am exhausted. It's too much work and too much thinking. 2, I want to say thank you again to LFJCC and Ryan and Arts and Ideas and Betsy Lynch for accepting. And I want to say also a big thank you to Eileen Wingard, who was with me when we met for the first time with the GCC and said, we want to do the Tree of Life. And Betsy say, yes, let's do it. And the pandemic happened. That means, again, in 2010, the San Diego Jewish Film Festival presented Il Maestro. And the film introduces Francesco Lotoro's work. And I was fascinated. In 2018, the Pittsburgh, the massacre of the Tree of Life synagogue, I was horrified. 2020, We Are the Tree of Life, as I just said, becomes a San Diego community-wide initiative. I was amazed. Today, 2021, I have, I think, 4 announcements to make. 1, on behalf of the Tree of Life and the efforts of so many people, I would say probably 100 people. 1, we have facilitated a partnership between the work of Francesco Lotoro, who works on music composed during the war in concentration camp, and the USC Shoah Foundation. They are going to work together. How? The Shoah Foundation is making its archives available to Francesco Lotoro and his work on developing this encyclopedia of music composed during the Holocaust. And Francesco Lotoro will have the opportunity to get into all those testimonies. And every time there is a sound of music, or every time one of the survivors will talk about music, he will be able to transcribe that into musical scores. That means, I'm sure you feel the extent of something like that. 2, we probably will have a tentative, we are developing, and for the moment it's tentatively, it's not, I have the authorization to announce it from Stephen Smith, director of the Shoah Foundation. The Tree of Life, We Are the Tree of Life, will be the base of the theme for the UNESCO Day of Remembrance of the Holocaust in 2022. And again, thank you to the LFJCC, to Ryan, to Abby, to Betsy, because they are basically the founder of that. And of course, the Holocaust Center of Pittsburgh will be joining us. Music through the Tree of Life, We Are the Tree of Life, will be developed with a number of programs, and I am already working with the LA Jewish Symphony for a program that we are calling Songs of the Ghettos. We have a film of 72 minutes. We are creating about a global approach to performing arts created in concentration camp. And we are developing what those professionals like Alan Markovitz says, series about each of those disciplines, a series on literature, a series on dance, a series on the poetry, and a series on, what did I say? Literature, dance, music. I'm missing one, whatever. Okay, that means join us. Even in the darkness, it is possible to create light. We need to build a better world. Yes, we need to build a better world. 1% of integrity can make a difference. Those are the words of Elie Wiesel. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jackie. Thank you everyone for joining us today, and to those of you who have been with us all along. It's been nice to have you with us. Guri, thank you so much for your time today. Nice to see you again. Jackie, I want to thank you not just for today, but for everything you've put into this entire series, the work you continue to do. You are one person making a difference, and it's been a pleasure and an honor to be part of this with you. And it's taken the community, and we've done a lot. And thank you for leading us. I think you were about 18 or 19 years old when we began this. It took a little while to get off the ground, and now here we are.
I give you 6 months. In 6 months, I quit.
Okay. Well, that's what we're all on notice. Thank you all again. As you know, we had to postpone the Dances of the Holocaust, which was the Tree of Life, We Are the Tree of Life performance from Israeli-American dancer Tammuz Dubnov. Jackie, I believe we're going to reschedule that for June 23rd now. We're going to move that to the 23rd. There was a conflict on the 16th, but June 23rd at 11 a.m. Please join us, and you'll all receive information on that. You can also find information on We Are the Tree of Life at lfjcc.org/tree. Thanks again, everyone. Thank you again, Guri, and Jackie, Abby. Thank you for all the heavy lifting, and thanks to all of you for making this possible by being a part of this.
Tada.
Okay.
All right. Thank you all.